I'm sure you have come across this multiple times on your life's journey. This is pretty much called a nutritional label, and it is most often found on food packets. Nutritional labels are very important to be included on food packets, and it's the manufacturer or producer's way of letting you know what is contained in the food item that you are about to put in your mouth, especially when you are not the one who made it in your kitchen. So you pretty much will find it on any edible item. Some of you may already know how to interpret the numbers and the words that you see on the label. Some of you may not know. And just in case you do not know, it's important that you actually get to start knowing, especially in the times that we live in. And if healthy eating is of importance to you, it's very important that you're mindful of what goes into your body. And the fastest way to be mindful is actually to read the nutritional labels of any food item that you buy. The producers are actually obligated to include this information on the packets of all of their products to give the consumers an idea of what they're consuming. If you don't know how to interpret a nutritional label or you don't know how to read it, I'm here to help you, and that's what this video is all about. And I always say that it's actually very, very, very essential that as somebody who wants to start eating healthy, that you intentionally and mindfully read the nutritional label or the nutritional facts of anything that you buy before you actually purchase it. I spend a lot of time at the grocery store, at the supermarket, whenever I'm buying whatever it is I'm buying, not because I don't know what I want to buy, but whenever I come across a new product that I've never seen before, I actually take my time to read the nutritional facts so that I know what is contained in it. Most often than not, or most times, most people just grab things and are not mindful of what's inside the things. And that actually is what does a lot of harm to the body. So after watching this video today, I want you to ensure that you would start being very mindful of the nutritional facts of anything that you purchase to feed your body with. And if healthy eating is of importance to you, then as a matter of necessity, you need to start paying very close attention to the nutritional facts. So over here on the table, I have a couple of products here, but I think I'm going to use the nutritional facts on this product, Old Fashioned Rolled Oats, by a brand named, I'm not sure what the name of the brand is now, but this is pretty much what we are going to be interpreting. And nutritional facts are standard across all products. So if you're able to read this, you'll be able to read the nutritional facts on a packet of biscuits. You'll be able to read the nutritional facts on a packet of noodles. This is a packet of noodles, for example. You'll be able to read the nutritional facts on a bottle of soy sauce. I have quite a number of products here, but it's pretty much standard. After I'm done explaining it to you, you can use the explanation to actually read nutritional facts on all other products. I tell you that after watching this video today, you'll be so shocked at the fact that you've been eating so many things that your body has no business eating. Anyways, without further ado, let's get right into it, shall we? Now, whenever you pick up a food product and you open up the nutritional facts, the very first thing you pretty much will see is the number of servings contained in a container. So, for example, this pack of rolled oats has 30 servings per container. And they have also gone ahead to write out the serving size per the container. And here they said the serving size is half a cup, meaning that in this 30 servings, you would get 30 half cups, half measuring cups. You will get 30 of it in this container. Now, where a lot of people usually confuse things is when they come to the second part, which shows the calories per serving, they assume that the total number of calories written here is the total number of calories for the entire pack. But that's not true. The amount of calories you usually will see on the product is the amount of calories per serving. Remember, this entire container has 30 servings. And so if you wanted to calculate the amount of calories contained in one serving, it's pretty much already written here, which is 150. Now, if you want to calculate the amount of serving in the entire container, what you do is you multiply the amount of calories written on the pack times the number of servings in that pack. And this one will pretty much give us 150 times 30 servings, 4,500. So that's the very first thing I want you to take out from this video. Whenever you take a product, always pay attention to the number of servings and the calorie per serving. Sometimes it's written that the bag of chips, the number per serving is maybe 30 grams, and the entire pack of chips is 100 grams. And then they put there that the calorie content per serving is 250 calories. When you buy the pack of chips and you turn to the back and you're just checking for the calories, be mindful, because the calories there is not for the entire pack. It's just for the serving. Most often than not, you have multiple servings in a packet. If you buy a pack of biscuit, for example, the serving size may just be 30 grams and the entire packet of biscuits might actually be 100 grams. It's actually always written. For example, this entire pack or jar is 1.19 kilograms. And then the serving size might actually be 100 grams, but that's not written here. Sometimes they write it per serving, sometimes they write it in grams. So you need to pay attention to whatever the producer decided to use as standard of measurement, right? So if you buy a pack of chips that is 100 grams, is written somewhere at the bottom of the front of the pack, and you go to the nutritional facts, and the nutritional facts tells you that your serving size is 30 grams and the calorie per serving is maybe 200. Note that the calorie per serving is not for the entire pack of the chips. It's for the serving size. They say they're on a healthy eating journey, and then they buy a pack of chips, and then you just literally consume the entire chips. And then you say this chips was just 150 calories. No, calorie size that you saw there is the calorie per serving. Most often than not, a pack usually would contain multiple servings. So this is actually one thing that I want you to pay very close attention to going forward, so that you're not jeopardizing your chances of actually maintaining a healthy weight. A lot of people wonder why they actually embark on this journey. They're tracking their calories, doing everything right, but they're pretty much maybe just misreading things, especially misreading the nutritional labels. So the very first thing I pretty much want you to pay attention to is how to read the serving size and how to read the calories per serving. Okay, so now let's explain a little bit about what calories actually mean. Calories just simply means the amount of energy found in a food. And just because a calorie is low doesn't mean that food is healthy. That's where you now actually go and continue to read the other items that are labeled there, even also read the ingredients. In fact, we're going to get to the ingredients later. But just because maybe you buy a pack of biscuits and they say it contains 100 calories doesn't automatically mean that biscuit is healthy. You need to read further to see what is contained in that 100 calories, because everything stated in the nutritional label is what actually is contained in the number of calories that you see on the packets. Don't go and say, oh, because it's just 100 calories, let me eat it. But do you know what is actually contained in that 100 calories that you're eating? Now, that's where we go to the next part of the nutritional label. So the next part of the nutritional label would be for us to now interpret the macronutrients. And the macronutrients are pretty much the amounts of fats, carbohydrates, protein contained in the products that you have purchased. Now, some producers or manufacturers go ahead and give you other details like the amount of vitamins and minerals contained in the products. But most often than not, what you will see on the nutritional label is just pretty much the fats content, the carbohydrate content, and the protein, which are the major, like the macronutrients. That's what you call the macronutrients. And the first one you pretty much see would be the total fat contained in the product. In this product, right, the total fat here is 2.5 grams. There are different types of fats. You have trans fats, you have saturated fats, you have unsaturated fats. Then under the unsaturated fats, you now have things like polyunsaturated fats and monounsaturated fats. Let's take it one step at a time so I don't confuse you guys. Now, trans fats is a type of fat that you want to ensure that you are avoiding at maximum capacity, because it's pretty much processed fats. Producers or manufacturers actually added a substance or a chemical. I'm not sure what it is now. I think it's called hydrogen. I'm not very particularly sure. Manufacturers would usually alter a maybe saturated fat and overly process it so that it solidifies, and that's what you find in things like overly processed foods, because they need the fats to help solidify the products that they are pretty much working on. So that's one fat that you definitely want to avoid as much as possible. So you pretty much will find trans fat in processed foods, fatty foods, fried foods, like your chips, like your potato fries that are packaged, you would know because the manufacturers usually write the amount of trans fat contained in the product. So again, the total fat here is 2.5 grams, but there are different sources of fat. And for this product, the trans fat here is 0 grams, which lets us know that there is no trans fat contained in this product. Okay, now we move over to saturated fats. Saturated fats are pretty much fats that are solidified at room temperature. And you will find this kind of fats in things like butter, margarine, even animal meats. When you bring them at room temperature, you know how it hardens up and it's usually like cream in color. You find it in things like palm oil. Any kind of fat that usually sleeps at room temperature is what is known as saturated fats. Now, saturated fats are good to be consumed, but not in excess. You need to be very mindful of the quantity of saturated fat contained in the product. This one, the amount of saturated fat contained in this product is 0.5 grams. Remember, it's per serving. The details here that you see are the details contained per serving, not in the entire pack. So per serving, this product has 0.5 grams of saturated fats. Okay, now let's move over to unsaturated fats. So these fats are fats that you find in things like avocado oils, the natural type of oils, olive oils. You find it in nuts. You find it in your fish. These are like literally the best type of fats. They help with the good cholesterol in the body. Doesn't mean that you overconsume these fats, because the overconsumption of it also still leads to some complications in the body. But these are the kind of fats that you want to ensure that when you see the total fat content, you want to have more of unsaturated fats. And unsaturated fats are now divided into polyunsaturated fats and monounsaturated fats. So monounsaturated fats are pretty much the kind of fats that your body actually really loves. They are exceptionally great for the heart. And they're also perfect for cooking at stable heat temperatures. So monounsaturated fats include things like you have your avocado oil, you have your avocados, things like your almonds, your peanuts and nuts like that. And then the polyunsaturated fats are fats that your body cannot actually produce on their own, and then they're also very exceptionally great for brain health. You have things like flax seeds. What I need you to take out from this is that unsaturated fats are fats that you actually want to be eating more of, and ensure that when you buy a product, the amount of unsaturated fat in that product is actually higher than the saturated and the trans fats. According to this product, the number of monounsaturated fat here is just 1 gram, and the number of polyunsaturated fats is 1 gram per serving, which means that ideally this product has no trans fats and then just has 0.5 grams of saturated fat and 2 grams of unsaturated fat per serving, which lets you know that the product is somewhat healthy. So the next macronutrient we're going to be tackling will be the carbohydrates. Now on the pack, on the nutritional label, you usually would see total carbohydrates, and then you will see dietary fiber, and then you will see sugar. Total carbohydrates is usually broken down into the amount of fiber content in that carbohydrates, and then the amount of natural or added sugars. So you want to always go for products that actually have a high amount of dietary fiber, because fibers are pretty much things that your body cannot digest easily, and it's actually really good for your digestion. It ensures that you have steady blood sugar levels. So you always want to ensure that the amount of dietary fiber compared to the total amount of carbohydrates is very reasonable. For example, the amount of dietary fiber contained here is 4 grams and the total amount of carbohydrates is 27 grams. So it means that if you minus 4 grams from 27, you'll be getting 23 grams of carbohydrates, which is now the amount of carbohydrates your body has to deal with. Then you now ask yourself, from these carbohydrates, what's the amount of natural sugars and what's the amount of added sugars in this total amount of carbohydrates that you have now? So over here, the total amount of sugar, because this is a natural product, the total amount of sugar is 0 grams. And of course, which means that the total amount of added sugar is 0 grams as well. But there are certain products where you see total carbohydrates is maybe 30 grams. And then you now see dietary fiber, amount of dietary fiber is maybe, they write 7 grams. You now also see under the carbohydrate section, total amount of sugar or total sugar. You probably will see 10 grams. Then they now break it down further. Added sugar. So the total sugar is just pretty much how much sugar is contained in that carbohydrate. Again, like I said, there is the natural sugar and then there is the added sugar. Natural sugar is what comes from things like your fruits, your apples, your pineapples, your watermelons. Added sugars are the overly processed sugars that are now added to the products to sweeten it up more. So you want to open your eyes and pay attention to the amount of added sugars in the product, especially when compared to dietary fiber. So pretty much what I want you to take from under this point is, for your total carbohydrates, you want to ensure that the dietary fiber of that contained in the total carbohydrates is substantial enough to fight off any form of attack that comes to your blood sugar levels. You don't want to eat a product that spikes up your blood sugar levels overly. So you need to actually pay attention to this. Sometimes people actually consume the total amount of carbohydrates they're supposed to be consuming in one day. They'll consume it by eating one packet of something. And that's usually where a lot of people now encounter different health issues and different health problems. So I think I should have also mentioned, you need to figure out or find out, based on your age and your weight, the total amount of carbohydrates you're supposed to be consuming on a daily basis. You need to figure out the total amount of protein you're supposed to be consuming on a daily basis so that you are matching it to what is written here and knowing how much of this product or how much of the products you're consuming is giving you the amount of carbohydrate or protein or fat you're supposed to be consuming on a daily basis. I think we're going to shoot a totally different video for that so that you can you'll be able to calculate for yourself the amount of fat, carbohydrate, and protein that you're supposed to be consuming on a daily basis. You want to be paying close attention to the amount of added sugar added to the products. You want to ensure that the products you're consuming don't have a lot of added sugar. If they do, you need to run away from it. And pretty much also remember that the nutritional facts here are per serving, not the entire products. So you need to be very mindful of that. Okay, and now to the final macronutrients in the nutritional label, which of course is protein. And I think that protein is actually the most, or one, they're all important, don't get me wrong, but protein is essential for every human being. It's great for muscle building, of course, development of the whole body, those who want to actually grow their muscles, keep their muscles, and you know the importance of actually keeping your muscles as you progress or advance in age. So you want to ensure that you are taking in lots and lots of protein, or the recommended daily allowance of protein every single day. And if you're somebody who is heavy on protein, or who is big on ensuring that they meet their daily goal for protein intake, then you cannot afford to not read the nutritional label on any products. And you want to always ensure that there is a significant amount of protein in any product that you buy. In fact, this is not just for the gym bodies or for those who want to build muscles. This is for everyone. Proteins are essential. There's this protein trend going on in the world now where everybody is crazy about ensuring that they meet their protein goals. If you haven't caught on with that trend, please catch on with it really quickly. Start focusing heavily on consuming your proteins, especially for people in this part of the world who focus so heavily on consuming carbohydrates that they don't pay that attention to proteins. You should actually focus more on consuming proteins than carbohydrates. Again, this is not to say that carbohydrates or fats are not significant. They're important, but we often tend to neglect proteins, and it's about time that you stop neglecting proteins, okay? So proteins pretty much are written here. And again, like I said, you want to ensure that any product you are consuming actually has a substantial amount of proteins contained in it. If not, that product is somewhat questionable. So this one has 5 grams of protein per serving. And per serving is half a cup, which gives me 150 calories for 5 grams of protein. That's just here and there. And something else I usually do whenever I buy products that don't have a lot of protein content and stuff, I look for external sources of protein and just add to the meal and bulk up the amount of protein in it. Or I look for external sources of fiber and add to the meal if it doesn't have enough fiber. That's another, I'll film another video on how I cheat my way through nutritional labels so that I can actually have the best of both worlds. Because sometimes, my sister, my brother, I know you want to enjoy that chips, but can you have that chips with a sauteed vegetable? Is it possible? Think smart. Can you have that chips with a hard-boiled egg as a snack? Think smart. I'm going to come share all those hacks with you so that you too can actually know how to eat your cake and have it as well. Okay, so that's pretty much that for protein. Nothing so much to be said about protein, but ensure that you're prioritizing your proteins. Very important for your body building and just your overall health. Before we continue with the video, here's a quick reminder. You will absolutely love our collection of healthy meal plans and ebooks. We've got something for everyone, from a 7-day healthy meal plan to a low-carb meal plan to a weight loss meal plan to a detox meal plan and diabetes-friendly options as well. We also have a healthy smoothie ebook and a healthy snack ebook, all created to help you enjoy your healthy eating journey without stress or confusion. You can explore the full collection by clicking the link in the description box below and then take advantage of these amazing resources to help you thrive on your wellness journey. Okay, so the next thing I want us to talk about will be the sodium content of the product. Sodium content is pretty much the salt content in a product. The daily recommended intake for salt, for sodium, is 2,300 milligrams per day. And so it's always would be clearly written on the product the amount of sodium contained in it. This one says it has 0 milligrams of sodium, meaning that there is no salt contained in here. And overly taking too much salt has its effect, just like overly taking anything has its effect. So you need to be mindful of your sodium intake, but sodium is actually also, salt is actually also very good for the body if taken in moderation. So again, the daily recommended intake is 2,300 milligrams per day. So open your eyes and be sure of the sodium intake. Sometimes products contain a whole lot of sodium, and then coupled with the salt that you use to cook your regular meals. Imagine eating a pack of biscuit that maybe contains over 1,000 milligrams of sodium, just for an example. And then your daily meals that you ate that day maybe contains over 3,000 milligrams of sodium. Imagine how much hurt you're causing your body. And a high sodium intake has been linked to things like high blood pressure, and you need to be very mindful of that as well. So open your eyes and pay attention to the sodium content in any products that you purchase, okay? Okay, so the next thing I want us to talk about would be if you move to the right side. Now on this product, it's written on the right side where you see daily value, so percentage daily value, right? Remember I mentioned earlier that for the different categories of food, there's a recommended daily intake for everyone. So for example, I personally, when I did my calculation for protein, I'm supposed to be taking about 130 to 140 grams of protein per day. Again, like I said, I'm going to film the video on how you can calculate yours so that you know the amount of protein, carbohydrate, fat, sodium, and whatever you need to be taking in a particular day. Right? So now, if you come to that side where it says percentage daily value, so for example, the total fats for the percentage daily value for total fat here is 3%, meaning that for a serving of this product, you are getting only 3% of 100% of the total fat you're supposed to be getting for that day from this product. Does that make sense? If, for example, the total fat you're supposed to be eating based on your age and your weight is maybe 25 grams, right? And then this product says you have just 2.5 grams of total fat. You can see that compared to 25 grams, there is a big shortage. So it opens up your mind to know that this product does not give you a substantial amount of the total fat you're supposed to be consuming that day. It means you still need to go and find other sources of total fats so that you are making up the total fat you're consuming for a particular day. Does that make sense? So you need to also pay attention so that you know the daily value of whatever it is that you're consuming. Anything below 5% is low. Anything above 20% is high. So for example, let's move over to carbohydrates. The total carbohydrate says that from this product, from one serving of this product, you're getting 10% of your total carbohydrate intake for the day. 10% compared to 100% is low. So if your total carbohydrate intake for a day is supposed to be 250 grams for that day, right? It's already written here that the total carbohydrate per serving from this product is 27 grams. So compared to 250 grams, you can see that it's not really Well, it's a lot. It's a lot for one serving of this, because carbohydrates is something you can usually easily get from other sources of food. So it's above 20 grams, which means that it's a substantial amount to get from just one serving of a particular product. But you guys understand the logic. So always look out for the percentage daily value to know the amount and the percentage of whatever you're consuming for a serving of that particular product compared to the percentage that you're supposed to be eating in a day. So for your macronutrients, the percentage you're supposed to be eating is 100%. You just need to know what that 100% is based on your weight and your age, and then you compare it to what is written in the nutritional label. Okay, so that's another thing that you need to pay very close attention to, even though a lot of us don't really do pay attention to it. People like me, for example, I just focus on the number of servings. I focus on the calories. I focus on the protein. For the carbohydrates, I'm more focused on, I want to know the amount of added sugar added to that product. That's the one that concerns me. Sometimes I check the daily value, sometimes I don't, but it's important that you just know how to interpret it, just in case. You never can tell where that information will come in very handy. Okay, so the final thing I want us to talk about extensively would be the ingredient list. Remember I said at the beginning that just because a calorie is low doesn't mean that the food is healthy. What is contained in the calories that you're consuming? All of this, the macronutrient details that I've just read to you, are details that are gotten from the ingredients used to produce the products. Now, first thing you need to notice that the ingredients are actually written in order of quantity. So when you're reading the ingredient list of a product, the first ingredient you see is the ingredient that is contained in the highest quantity in that product. The second one is the ingredient that is contained the second highest, third highest, fourth highest. Does that make sense? So every time you get a product and you read the ingredients, the first ingredient contained in that product is usually the highest amount of ingredients in the entire product. So for example, this one has ingredients as just what? Whole grain rolled oats. Again, this is a natural product. So this is not a processed product. This was actually harvested probably from the farm and didn't undergo any processing. That's processing that requires adding anything to make it stable or preserve it for longer. And that's the reason why the ingredients here is just what? Whole grain rolled oats. Okay, let me pick this pack of biscuits. This is a biscuit from, I don't know what the brand is. I'm not going to mention the brand. The first ingredient here is what? Instant oats. It's a granola bar. It's not a biscuit, it's a granola bar. And the first ingredient written here is instant oats, meaning that instant oats is actually the major ingredient, or the ingredient that has the highest quantity in the entire mix. The second ingredient here is sugar. Stay focused. Sugar, meaning that the sugar in this thing, okbogo, is much compared to the other things, like maybe, for example, the last product here is an antioxidants E319, E320. See, anything you can't pronounce or understand when you're reading an ingredient list, toss it. For the sake of your health, toss it. Start paying attention to the ingredients contained in a product. In fact, I always say the longer the ingredient list, the more you need to toss that product, because you're seeing things like glucose D 55-17, numbers that you can't explain, things that were concocted in the lab to keep things stable. See, the natural foods that we have don't need any preservatives. In fact, that's why they don't last long, because they're not supposed to last long. God created them in such a way that they are self-sustaining. They produce themselves. That's why when you pluck and have you ever wondered why God told the people of the Israelites, see, you people should not store meat. Don't store it. Don't worry. Every day I'll provide food for you. That's another topic for another day. That one will teach you a whole lesson about life. But whenever you start seeing ingredients that you can't explain or pronounce, you need to be careful of that product. The third ingredient here is wheat flour. Means that wheat flour is the third highest ingredients used to make this. There's also vegetable fats. There is also wheat bran. There's liquid glucose. There's honey. So much sugar. So they've put sugar. They now put honey again. Why? Bruh. So you guys should please be so mindful of the things that you put in your mouth. You open a pack of biscuits, you put it, oh, it tastes so good. Do you know what is contained inside of it? Your body is the only body that you have. You need to treat it like it's premium, because it's actually premium. So be very mindful of the things that you eat. That's why when people see me eating a carrot, eating an apple, they say, are you a bird? Yes, I want to be a bird if that's what you consider me. But I know that I'm feeding my body premium things that would actually help it thrive through life. So be very mindful of ingredient lists. I put here that you need to avoid long lists that have unrecognizable names, unrecognizable additives or sugar listed in form of things like corn syrup, sucrose. Oh God, these guys are really killing the world. But we need to be very mindful and open up our eyes to see the dangers of some of these things. So be very, very careful. Just sugar is not, for example, right? In an ingredient list, you see sugar. If you see things like glucose or honey or sucrose, there are different names for sugar. You may see sugar and then come to the list and see other forms of sugar. It means that that thing is packed, loaded with different types of sugar. You see how you're hurting your body. Please, let's be mindful of these things, okay? Finally, before we wrap up this episode, when you see things like organic or natural or no fat or low fat on a product, doesn't necessarily mean that that product is healthy as well. No sugar does not mean that there is no other forms of sugar, because some manufacturers always try to deceive people by, we know that there are different types of sugars that are called different names, but sugar is sugar based on there's a law, there's a way they read it. I don't want to bore you with all of that. But when you see something has low sugar or no sugar, that's when you should even be mindful. Go to the back and read. Go to the back and read the label yourself. They usually will put it in front. Even when something they say it has high protein. In fact, this is the one that you should be mindful of. They write in the front of the pack, high protein, maybe granola bar. Okay, high protein. Then you now go to the back and you now see that the total carbohydrates is very high. Amount of sugar in that thing, very high compared to the so-called high protein. Maybe they are giving you 10 grams of protein per one small bar, and then you'll be like, oh, this is high protein. Then you just mindlessly open it and start eating. But when you now go to the back, you find out that the amount of total sugar contained in that thing is going to whoop your blood sugar levels. It will whoop it to non-existence. So be very mindful of all those products that tell you low fat, natural, healthy, organic. Be mindful of those products. That's when you should actually open your eyes and go and read. And this is not to say that there are not products that are good. There are really good products in the world. I know that we have manufacturers who produce products for the sole aim of helping people with their health. So you need to find those products, and things may sound a little bit complicated, especially if you're just starting out on your journey to reading nutritional labels. But the more that you continue to read them and understand them and practice them, the better you get with them and the easier it will become. For someone like me, I've been reading it for many, many years now. And if there's something you don't understand, again, you can quickly just go and ask Google, or you can ask ChatGPT to explain things for you, and you get better understanding of it. But I think that the whole point of this video is to get you to become a little more aware of the products that you put into your body. Next time you go to the store, please check the nutritional labels. Check what you're buying. Check what you're feeding your children. Check what you're feeding your family. Check what you're feeding yourself. Check what you're feeding yourself. It's very important. Don't just buy things and bombard your body with it. And then when your body starts to malfunction, you wonder why. Be mindful of the things that you feed your body with. I guess my job here is done with regards to helping you understand nutritional labels. If you have learned a thing or two, please do well to share this video with your family and friends so that they too can learn something as well and apply it to their own lives. I'll see you again with another episode. Until then, remember to continue to live a healthy lifestyle.